Welcome back everyone. This is Mindy Eggen for Hero Arts, and in today's video I will be walking you through the December My Monthly Hero Kit for 2020. I will be creating 3 cards for you on screen. Here is a look at the kit. It has this beautiful layering stamp set. You'll also be getting some gorgeous window dies. There's complimentary inks and some sparkly yellow embossing powder. All coordinate beautifully with the kit this month. This kit was designed to be uplifting and bring you a bit of hope for the new year with all of these beautiful images and sentiments. So first we'll take a look at the actual product in the kit. This is the 6x8 stamp set with the layering images. And I apologize, mine does look a bit dirty because I've used it a lot to create some cards for you. Now you can see on the stamp set we have layering clouds and also a layering sun. So these can be used together or individually. There is also the window die, so it has clouds around the edges. There is an individual cloud. And then there is also the hope die, and the hope die is 2 pieces that you can use together or separately. And the hope piece is really great if you want to do a die cut inlay card, which is what I will be showing you later on in this video. So the first piece of the hope die will actually cut into your card front. If you want to die cut it to have it as a separate piece, you would use that together with that second layer. Then there is also some sparkly Prisma yellow embossing powder, which I will be using on one of my cards. Absolutely gorgeous. And we also have some mini ink cubes here for you. So the colors we have are Chartreuse, Morning Mist, Thistle, and Early Dawn. And I will be using some of these on my cards today as well. So first I'll get started by stamping out my layering clouds. I like to use my MISTI corner when I'm stamping any of these landscape images like this, because that way I can hang off my background on the edges of my card. So I'm starting with that first layer, which is the most solid one out of the stamp set. I'm lining that up onto a piece of dove weight cardstock that measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I'm going to pick that up with the door of my MISTI, and then I'm just realigning my cardstock to make sure that it is tucked into that MISTI corner. Then I'm going to take the Taffy Reactive ink, and I'm going to make sure I ink up my stamped image really well. If it's the first time you're using it, you want to make sure you condition the stamp. So you could either use embossing ink to condition it, or you could just rub your hand over the top of it, and that will just help take off any residue from the manufacturers that might still be on there, and that'll help you give a really crisp stamped image. I am going to stamp this first layer twice to make sure it's just a really nice solid image. And then I'm going to use the second piece, and the second piece of the clouds will line up right over our clouds. There may be some gaps, but that's where there's 3 layers to the stamp set. So I'm taking this second one, and you will have a guide sheet when you receive your stamp set. Mine comes straight from the manufacturer, so I don't have that guide sheet, but I just line my clouds up at the top. Make sure to reposition my cardstock because sometimes that can shift when we pick up our stamp. Then I'm going to use Morning Mist, which is a really pretty pale pink. And these are all in reactive inks. So if you wanted to splatter any water on them, that water would react with the ink. It just all depends on what type of look you're going for. So I inked that up with the Morning Mist, stamped that down, and that's giving me my second layer. Now it's fairly light, so I'm going to ink that up again. After I have my second layer down, I will work on the third layer. And the third layer is the closest to our ray of light that's going to be coming from the bottom of the card. So I'm going to stamp this in kind of a yellow color because that is what I'm going to stamp my sun rays in. So once again, repositioning my cardstock, making sure that's straight in there. I'm going to bring in a soft yellow. Now Hero Arts has a lot of different yellows you could use, and I do vary throughout my video between lemon drop or butter bar. This is the soft yellow, and they all look beautiful on this. There are a ton of different color combinations for this that look just amazing, depending if you want more of a dramatic sky or if you want a softer sky. So I set that first piece off on the side. I'm going to work on that later. I have some plans for that pink background. So I'm going to do another one here quick for you. This one is using the Thistle ink. So I'm making a purple background or a purple sky to my card. And this is a great way to use most of the components in the kit and be able to create a one layer card, which is really great if you want to mail things. There's not going to be any extra dimension unless you want to add that. Now my second layer for the clouds, I am using Taffy. So I have Thistle as the first color, then Taffy as the second, so the purple and the pink. And then I'm going to add another lighter color for my third layer. And that third layer is going to be the Morning Mist. So it's going to be a really nice light pink. Now I'm going to work on stamping my sun ray images. And there's two different ways you can do this. You could either stamp the sun first or the sun rays. I want to make sure that my sun rays aren't too far up. So I'm going to take that big one. This is the first one I'm using. I'm using it as a guide. So lining up about where I want it to be and then kind of bringing in the actual sun. So I use that first one as a guide. I didn't want it to go too far up into the clouds. So once I have my sun lined up, I'm going to pick that up with the door of the MISTI. And I'm bringing in another yellow. Like I said, I varied between my colors, between Lemon Drop and Butterbar. Then once I stamp that down, I'm bringing in the smaller of the two sun rays that are on that stamp set. And now this set of sun rays, I'm going to stamp in creamsicle ink. So I'm doing a two-tone with my sun rays. This is going to be a light orange, and I want to heat emboss that last set. So I'm just using a heat gun to just make sure my ink is really nice and dry on my cardstock. I only want the yellow embossing powder to stick to what I'm going to stamp. I don't want it to stick to all of my inking of my clouds. So once that's dry, I mounted that back into my MISTI tool, prepped it with an anti-static powder tool, and then I'm bringing in those sun rays again, and this is the largest of the sun rays. I'm going to stamp this in the Hero Arts Embossing and Watermark ink. And then I'm going to use the yellow sparkle embossing powder. If you're a fan of Hero Arts regular sparkle embossing powder, you are going to love this yellow one because it is just as gorgeous, but it's in yellow and it's so great for these sun rays. So after I sprinkle that on, I'm going to tap the excess off onto a piece of scrap paper. And after my heat gun is really nice and hot, I'm going to bring that in and melt that embossing powder. And we have all this gorgeous sparkle going on our card. So after my panel is cooled off a little bit, I'm going to put this back into my MISTI tool, or you could use a stamping block. And I'm lining up one of the sentiments from the stamp set. This is going to say, wishing you a better tomorrow. I'm a huge fan of this style of font. I love the mix of these fonts and the beautiful messages that they have. There's also a set of birds on here, and I'm adding that right above into my clouds. So this is a really great encouragement card. It's one layer, and it was really quick to do. Now I'm going to bring you back to the first card that I had stamped in the beginning of the video, and that was using a lot of the pinks. And the first thing that I had actually thought of was a sunrise over the water. So that is what I'm going to create. I'm taking a piece of Post-it masking tape, and I'm just aligning that up to cover the middle portion right under my clouds, leaving me the bottom. And coming in from the sides, I'm going to ink blend Taffy ink. So I'm kind of going for a monochromatic look here a little bit. I have the pink sky, I have the pink ocean, so to me it's kind of reflecting down. And I'm coming in from the edges, blending that in softly, because when you look at a sunset, the sun is reflecting kind of straight down the middle of your card, and that is what I wanted to convey. So I'm starting off kind of darker on the edges, getting softer as I blend in, and then I'm bringing in, I believe this was Lemon Drop, and I'm adding that right in the middle. I'm not blending that into the pink. I like having that little bit of white showing there. Then I can remove my Post-it tape, and I'm going to kind of wipe off my surface a little bit, and I'm going to add this Post-it tape right over my ink blended area. After I have that Post-it tape secured, I'm going to ink blend a sky. So I'm starting with Creamsicle, and I'm not going real heavy on this. I'm just doing it real lightly, starting from the bottom, working my way up. And it doesn't have to be a perfect blend. I just wanted a little bit of background color to my sky because I am still going to stamp the sun rays in here. So just lightly going over that with a blending tool, whatever you have on hand will work great. And then also bringing in the lemon drop. So going right over the top or right above the Creamsicle ink. So once that is done, I can load this back into my MISTI, and I am going to stamp the sun and the sun rays to this. And I did something kind of not expecting how good this was going to turn out. I first stamped this in a yellow ink, and I did a little trick on here to kind of bring a little bit of dimension to it. I took the Creamsicle ink and I'm just going over the very edges or the top edges of the sun and then taking a blending tool and dabbing that a little bit. So I wanted to show you that. I had done it once and I thought I better show you real quick. So I did it again, and I love that little bit of orange. I wasn't expecting that to look as cool as it was. So lining up now my first ray of sun rays, I stamped that in the Creamsicle ink, and then I'm going to stamp that larger set of sun rays in lemon drop. Now you could also use the yellow Prisma embossing powder here as well. You just want to make sure that your background is really nice and dry since there is a lot of ink on this card. So to finish it off, I'm going to bring in another one of the uplifting sentiments that are included in this kit. And this one is sending you a little sunshine. And they are separated. You can see sunshine is separate than the sentiment on top, so you can mix and match and create your own sentiment for your cards. I just love these beautiful uplifting messages. Then I'll just finish it off by adding the birds because I just cannot leave out these beautiful birds in the background. And that finishes off the second card. So there's two ways you can do it, very kind of clean and simple, or by adding some ink blending to it. Now there are quite a few that I created off screen. One of them is using Arctic cardstock with some dark colors that I stamped for a cloudy sky. And I did these sun rays in silver embossing powder. Now this one, we are using the window die that comes in the kit. And you can see it adds just beautiful layered clouds around the edge. And I'm just going to finish it off by adding a sentiment to the front. This card is going to be sending some hope, which I think are great to send out to our family and friends and are great for any time of the year. This window die is also really great. You could use as shaker cards, and I did create one I have listed over on my blog. There are just tons of ways to use these window dies. So I just attached it with a tape runner. You could also use foam tape if you wanted to add a little bit of dimension to them, and that makes a card number 3. So really quick, if you're kind of in a zone and stamping out backgrounds, just think about some that you can use with the window die. Now next up, I will be using the Hope die cut word. There are a few different ways to use this as well, die cutting it into your card front, or you can do an inlay die cut, which is what I will be doing. So I have this background I had created at one point and set off in the side. So I die cut my hope into that colored cardstock. Now I am layering these two pieces together to die cut the actual word out from white cardstock. And I just held those dies together with some low tack tape. So by die cutting that out of white cardstock, I made myself a frame for my inlay pieces. I went through and punched out all of the white individual pieces from this. I'm going to be mounting it onto a piece of dove white cardstock that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I'm going to start out by gluing my frame down using some of the liquid glue. So after I have this glued down to my card front, this is going to be another very clean card, but it is a little time consuming. If you like to do die cut inlay, you could do it in the various colors like I have, or all one color of cardstock. It's a nice relaxing thing to do. I don't do it very often, but it's kind of like putting a puzzle together. And I really did enjoy the process of this. So most of my pieces stayed in my cardstock. So I'm just slowly lifting those out and adding them in one by one. Just using a little bit of liquid glue and my tweezers to pop those into place. I did run my die cut through with some gold glitter cardstock. I thought would be really pretty to have that rays in the middle there for the O to be in some sort of bright color or sparkly colors, and then just matching those pieces up and adding those into its place. So very much like putting a puzzle together. So after I have all of this glued in, I decided I wanted to add a little bit of a sentiment. So I'm going to mask off a part of this stamp set. I wanted to say sending hope. So just using a Post-it, I'm going to cover up the rest of the stamp set and just ink up the word sending. Then after I close the door of the MISTI, that'll stamp down right above my word hope. Now, white cardstock is always a struggle for me because I always get fingerprints on my white cardstock. So I'm just taking a mono sand eraser and just lightly buffing those little smudges away. Now, I do have a few more cards to share with you for some inspiration. These are going to be using the window die. I had just done some simple ink blending behind the background. So this one is just using lapis cardstock with navy and cornflower ink, and then adding flicks of the Glimmer ink to the background for stars. This one has more of a purple background, and I added in the birds for that. And then I have another one I did with black cardstock, and I created a shaker card for this one. So lots of different ways to use this. So much out of this kit is just amazing. I have one more card I wanted to share with you that I had created off screen, and that was just stamping the sun. I love this clean and simple design, and it just shows that you can use these components of the kit together or separately. This was inspiration using the My Monthly Hero Kit from Hero Arts for December 2020. If you are a subscriber, you will automatically be guaranteed a kit, but if you are not a subscriber, you can purchase this on your own, but you risk the chance of it selling out. And once these are gone, they are gone. So I do highly recommend heading over to Hero Arts and becoming a subscriber so you never miss another kit. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you again soon.